And our fourth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Marcus. And Marcus writes, and by the way, I just want to say, I forgot to mention here, shout out to a couple of our viewers, Savage McFilthy and FPV Forever, sending super chat badges in the live chat. Thank you for that, guys. Appreciate that. Okay, now with that down, let's get to our fourth topic today. And our fourth topic today gets submitted to us by Marcus, who writes, "Hi, John. Venom, Let There Be Carnage had its first screening tonight, and this was last night, obviously, and the first reactions are overwhelmingly positive, with some praising its mind-blowing post-credit scene. While I know that this can be common for most early fan screenings, it's still nice to see. I'm absolutely stoked to see this. What are your thoughts? And bring on the filthy." Okay, man, thanks for sending that in. And yep, the first public screening of Venom, Let There Be Carnage happened last night over in the UK. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier before, I'm a big fan of Venom, and I have been ludicrously excited for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. I think the trailers will look fantastic. I love Andy Serkis, and he came in to take over the director's chair of it. I think this is going to be a hell of a lot of fun. I just think this movie's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Well, according to the reactions of the people coming out and seeing this movie last night, the movie meets up to and exceeds all the hype. As a matter of fact, very prominent online outlet, comicbookmovie.com, they're a big one. A lot of people love these guys. Their quote, okay, comicbookmovies.com's quote is this: "It is that Carnage, Venom Let There Be Carnage, is the ultimate Marvel movie." That's big. That's a big claim. So comicbookmovie.com is saying that Venom Let There Be Carnage is the ultimate Marvel movie. Again, super big claim, but very excited to hear that. But it wasn't just them. It wasn't just them at all. As a matter of fact, as we go through, let's look at some of these things. One Molly writes, "Venom, the fan first, absolutely buzzing from this film. It was so good, and it was honestly so amazing being able to see it, which is great." Ben Geekness writes, "The biggest strength of Venom Let There Be Carnage is its fantastic pacing and exhilarating action, matching the kinetic energy Tom Hardy has with himself. Woody Harrelson is relishing as Cletus/Carnage and is perfect for the role. And oh my God, stay for the credits." Emotionally Invested writes, "I was lucky enough to be among the first to finally get to see Venom Let There Be Carnage. I adored it. The first Venom is my favorite of the modern MCU films, and Venom makes all the smart next steps, telling a very human and very beautiful story for Eddie Brock." Paul Holding writes, "I just saw Venom Let There Be Carnage. You have to go see it, and I got to meet the totally lovely Andy Serkis and saw Tom Hardy. Thank you, Sony Pictures." Neil Vag writes, "Venom Let There Be Carnage is a frenzied mix of buddy movie, romance, Venom loves Eddie, and horror. It wastes no time in getting down to business and not relent. Hardy is on fire, and Woody Harrelson is Carnage. Do not meet the credits." Sasha writes, "Complete and utter perfect chaos. Go see the movie on October 15th. And we'll finish this off with Ready Cosplayer 1, who writes, "Well, I can wholeheartedly say Venom was absolute carnage. I loved it so much. Thank you, Cineworld, for having us." And there you go. Now, Rob, when you get these early events, there's this perception out there that these early events always have great positive reaction coming out. I looked back on these. That's simply not true. Do they lean a little bit more positive? Absolutely. But this is the type of reactions we saw people having coming out of Shang-Chi. And look how that turned out.
Yeah.
It's certainly encouraging to see. And again, comicbookmovie.com does not get swept up a lot in hyperbole. And for them to come out and say it's the ultimate Marvel movie. Now, I don't know that I'm going to think that when I see it, but I think it's very interesting that they felt that way. That's interesting. And what I also liked, Rob, because we talked the other day about the fact that news came out that Venom 2 actually has a 90-minute running time. And a lot of people bemoan that, oh, why can't... And my argument was, listen, if that's the right running time for this movie, if that's the running time that makes this the best movie, the version of this movie that it can be, that gives it the best pacing and really makes it sing great. And it's really interesting to see a couple of the comments in here talking about the pacing of the film, that it just goes and it's unrelenting and it just has this motion. That sounds great to me. Listen, am I going to like the movie as much as these people? Don't know. Won't know till I see it. But I love hearing people having this reaction. Again, this is very reminiscent. This feels a lot like the reactions people were having coming out of Shang-Chi. And if this movie can even be in the neighborhood of that, we got something pretty special on our hands. Anyway, Rob, you see all these reactions coming out for Venom. What do you think about them? And how does this adjust, if it adjusts at all, your expectations for the film?
Well, I actually was really excited. I was more excited about this movie because Andy Serkis is directing it. And, you know, he was a man, he's a man I always loved as an actor. Then, of course, creating Gollum and working with Peter Jackson on both the Lord of the Rings films, then King Kong, and then the Hobbit movies. You know, I would assume he had, and by the way, he's directed a few other films too before this. So he's somebody that's really learned his craft. And I'm thinking that with motion capture and having, I couldn't think of a better person in Hollywood to direct this movie. So from a visionary standpoint, I'm like, you know what? I didn't love the first Venom, but they certainly have the best person in Hollywood to make this sequel. So I was kind of secretly hoping it would be great. Now, I don't care how long a movie is. I care about, does it have great characters, and is it well told? And to hear that this is a relentless roller coaster thrill ride. I mean, let's face it, John, this is not War and Peace or Lawrence of Arabia. This is Venom versus MF Carnage. And I want to see that. And if that's what Andy Serkis gave us, because he knows exactly what we want. I mean, he learned under the man who made Dead Alive and Meet the Feebles. And I'm like, yeah, man, bring this on. I am very excited to hear these reactions. I can't wait to see the film now. You know what? Even though I didn't, because this is not something that's high art. You know, as I get older, I find myself less and less tolerant to these kinds of things. But if they're done well, you give me a monster mash, you give me two slugfest creatures like Venom and Carnage, whatever, going at one another. Who's beyond watching a great wrestling match, John, or a great MMA fight? No one, no matter how old you are. And if they're giving us this, heck yeah, bring that stuff on, son.
Juice, dude, that one shot in the trailer where they're in the church and they're facing off, Carnage and Venom either side, and just Venom's like, oh yeah, and he starts charging at Carnage, and Carnage starts throwing all the spikes at him. It's like, I gotta see this.
Come on.
Come on. And you know what? Now I'm even more excited about the 90-minute runtime. Everybody's saying like it looks like it's all killer, no filler. And that's what something like this movie needs to be.
It depends. I mean, all killer, no filler can be great if it's done right.
Yes. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, yeah, I was talking on the After Dark last night, Rob, about like the Braveheart director's commentary, where Mel Gibson talks about the act of having to cut scenes out of your movie. He likens it, it's like killing one of your children, because you spend months as a filmmaker making these scenes and putting these scenes together, bringing cast and crew together to film them, to build the sets, all that kind of stuff. And then you're in the editing room, and in 2 seconds, this scene that you spent months developing, in 2 seconds you go, cut it out. But he said, you remember talking about it all has to be in service to the movie.
Yep.
And if this scene might be great, but if it doesn't accomplish something that another scene didn't already accomplish, if it's not really necessary to the story, blah, 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 is this movie going to be a better version of itself if I leave this in, or will it be a better version of itself if I remove it? You got to do what's best for the movie. And if that's what you do and it ends up being a 2.5 hour movie, great. And if that's what you do and it ends up being a 90-minute movie, great. It's about finding the right runtime for your story. And, some need to be 3 hours. Some need to be 90 minutes. So I don't know. I am very, 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 very much looking forward to this. This sounds great to me.
There's something else to consider too. I mean, when you're dealing with Venom and Carnage, you're dealing with very intricate animation and effect sequences, and there's 2 of these characters fighting. So to make it as convincing and as great as possible, there's a lot of artistry by many different people working to make these scenes the best they can be. And a shorter running time doesn't necessarily mean that it ain't going to deliver the goods. To me, yes, they've made a film that you're going to get 100% the whole time. And that's pretty, to me, I'm like, I'm stoked, dude. I'm like, all right. My estimation of this movie, my excitement has definitely gone way up.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, I also just want a quick shout out to Hulagoo79 who sends in a super chat badge in live chat. Thank you, man, for that. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Like, again, just because you hear other people saying they love a movie doesn't mean you will. But in the world of is this good news or bad news? This has got to be considered good news if you're somebody who's looking forward to Venom. What are your thoughts on this? Jump on down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there.